Well, we've got more earnings out. Palantir results have crossed the tape. It's a beat and a big raise for the AI software company. Earnings of 10 cents adjusted per share. That was a penny better than expectations. Revenue, $726 million. That was also a beat, up 30% year over year. Palantir forecasting Q4 revenue of $767 to $771 million. That's higher than analyst estimates. Adjusted free cash flow in excess of $1 billion for the full year. 2024 U.S. commercial revenue raised upwards of $687 million. That represents a growth rate of at least 50%. So for the quarter specifically, this is a U.S. story. U.S. government up 40% year over year to $320 million. U.S. commercial revenue up 54% year over year to $179 million. 104 deals over $1 million closed in the quarter. Customer count up 39% year over year. All, I might add, with almost no marketing or sales team. I spoke with CEO and co-founder Alex Karp. He says the results show that the value in AI is in the management of large language models as opposed to the creation of them. That, quote, the winners in AI will be powered by Palantir and the losers will read analyst notes. In his shareholder letter, Karp saying, quote, this is the software century and we intend to take the entire market. So I asked how Palantir plans to do that. Karp pointing to the defense side, a shift to software-driven with hardware-dominated military environment. The case in point, Maven, which is deployed in the Middle East. On the commercial side, saying any vertical with complex operations is where they're seeing adoption. Hospitals, manufacturing, logistics, to name a few. Karp saying, quote, what I want you to tell people is we need to invest even more in the government space and in industry and implementing AI that is actually changing our enterprise, because this is how we make America even stronger, and there is no real alternative to us. He says it could be called almost U.S. AI. That, quote, our bias on this is so differentiated from the market, although apparently people in Silicon Valley are starting to understand this, but it's just giving a structural advantage to America first and our allies second. You can see this on the battlefield. You see it in U.S. industry. The inverse of this, you see it in the sluggishness, lack of perception, and general malaise in continental Europe. That it's a tale of two worlds, the AI-driven world and the AI-rejecting world. So if you take a look at shares of Palantir, they're popping right now. They're up 11%. The bar was high here. The stock's up over 140% this year. It's up more than 580% from late 2022 lows of $6 a share. And Adam, I'm going to go back to you on this one because this has been a retail darling, but I know everybody talks about it as, software company, software, enterprise, but in some ways, it almost reminds me of NVIDIA because NVIDIA has been growing into its valuation, and in some ways, analysts are having a hard time wrapping their arms around how quickly it's growing into its valuation. At least that's been the case over the last few years. Palantir seems to be a very similar dynamic, at least right now. I mean, look, you're back to 30% year-over-year revenue growth. You just said I think that was a golden number for the market. And I think NVIDIA, like you said, is actually getting cheaper on a forward multiple basis as it goes up. It's honestly cheaper now than it was 3 years ago on a forward multiple basis, which is incredible. That's just how quickly that company is growing. Now you have Palantir, which is kind of taking the AI trend, but not looking at it from the hardware perspective and the chip perspective, but how can you implement that into companies and governments and everything from that we're used day to day. I think this is the first company that's really able to do that successfully and command the premium that we're seeing in that stock. And based on the market's reaction, I think it can keep going higher.